we're not going to live the rest of our lives never eating a granule of sugar. But how do we do that with intention? What does it look like? Where is it that we want to prioritize adding them back in? Again, accountability to recognize when we feel our best and help us connect those dots.
Yeah. Your quality of sugar, the requirements go a little higher once you know, right. Like once you're aware, it's like you're not necessarily going to eat the Hershey Kisses. You might instead invest in something that is worth that cost that you're going to have to pay for having sugar, right?
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your health coach and host, Jenn Trepeck, always here with you every week for wellness without the weirdness. Joining me today is Brandy. Brandy's been here a couple times before, so welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. I'm always excited to be on the Salad with a Side of Fries stage.
Yeah. And by the way, most recently, everybody heard about you and your company, Plant Candy, because you provided the most beautiful and delicious salads for Salad with a Side of Fries live in New York City. So thank you again. Everybody loved them.
Yeah, you're more than welcome.
Yeah. And those salad dressings too. So good. And so this week's topic of hidden sugar has been on my list for probably a year. And then, Brandy, as is what happens when you and I hang out. So fill everybody in. We were hanging out a couple months ago. You mentioned that you run a sugar-free challenge called the Sweet Escape.
Yep, the Sweet Escape Challenge, once a quarter.
Amazing. And this is what people like us talk about, right?
Yeah, right. Because, you can't go out and just like talk about regular stuff. You have to go deep into the industry talk.
Totally. So then we were sitting there and I was like, well, we have to do this episode together then. So here we are.
Look at that.
Right. And I want to jump into it. So super quick, let's just tell our members what they're getting this week. And then we'll start with hidden sugar and the sugar-free challenge. So members, I'm sending you 2 recipes this week. Both are no sugar added desserts. So one is for 3-ingredient brownies. The sugar in this one is coming from ripe bananas. They are so yummy. And then the other is for healthier chocolate mousse. This one also only has 3 ingredients, which to me, that's a total win, right? Let's keep it easy. And then because it's the 3rd month of the quarter, it's time for your quarterly live Q&A. And given how much everybody loved the community piece of Salad with a Side of Fries live, we're going to do this on Zoom. So I'm giving you guys 2 dates to help this work for everyone's schedules and accommodate you. So in your email on Friday, you're going to get both dates. You can register for one or both Zooms. I'm happy to see you at both of them. So if you want these recipes or access to these community Zooms live with our members, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It's a total deal. I say it all the time. It's a steal when you take advantage of the full offerings because you're saving far more than that $10 cost. Seriously, a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, by being a member, you support this podcast and this community so we can continue to bring you new episodes and experts every week. 5 years and counting. Amazing. I know. So remember, all you have to do is head over to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the episode notes because that's easier than remembering a whole thing. Once you're there, you click I agree and then support now, enter your email and payment info, click subscribe, and you're all set. You're going to get this week's recipes, the 3-ingredient brownies, and the healthier chocolate mousse, plus access to 2 live Q&A sessions this month. All right, so Brandy, I was putting my notes together for this, and I sort of thought maybe we should make sure that we're all on the same page about how much sugar the average, I'm going to say American, consumes, because it is certainly different around the world.
Yes.
You probably know the answer to this, but what would you guess?
In a day, in a year, what are we what are we thinking?
You could do both.
I want to say in a day. I think I know it in calories. I don't know it in like grams.
Yeah.
So I think last time I saw the data, it was like 3,200 calories, somewhere between like 32 and 4,000.
Oh my calories. Okay, that's more than. Okay, so the latest research I saw was from September of 2023.
Okay.
It was in a day, 34 teaspoons of sugar, which is more than 500 calories. We'd have to do some math.
Yeah.
But that equates to 100 pounds of sugar per year, per person.
Yes. Yes.
Like, I want everybody to think about that 1 pound bag of sugar in the grocery store and then think of a pallet that's maybe how many fit on a pallet. I don't know. I should have done this math. How many sugar bags fit on a pallet?
There.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, if each one's a pound, right? 100 of them every year.
It's crazy.
That's
insane.
like 2 a week.
That's a lot of sugar.
It's wild. And by the way, like this continues to increase over time. Mm-hmm. First of all, biologically, humans, like we are hardwired to seek out sweet flavors. And then you add to that our food industry with processed foods, hyper palatable foods, right? That all of these things that even didn't used to be sweet are now sweet.
Yeah.
It's like no wonder we ended up here and we don't even realize it.
Yeah. And a lot of times, I mean, especially looking at it from a food perspective, I think they justify it in the boardroom, wherever they create these formulas to attempt to make things taste like they're supposed to taste in nature, right? So if you actually eat a homegrown tomato and pull it off of the vine, like it tastes like candy. And I have friends who tell me, stop telling people it tastes like candy because they're eating ones that
your
don't
company
taste
is Plant
like
Candy.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it really does. Like if you eat food, like especially like fruits, because tomatoes technically are fruit, there's a sweetness there that you don't, that you just don't get. And so companies, one, is addictive, but then two, I think it's also trying to compensate for the poor quality of food.
100%. And there are so many reasons for that, right? Like the quality of the soil, what we're feeding our plants, genetically modified seeds. Like it looks like a tomato, but it starts to taste like nothing.
Nothing.
And then the other side of that is our taste buds adjust.
Yes.
So the more of the highly palatable, processed, sugar-laden foods and drinks that we consume, the sweeter something has to be for our taste buds to register that it's sweet. So of course we ended up here. And then the health consequences of that. And I'm like hesitating to say this because I don't want to be like total Debbie Downer, right? I mean, the weight component is what most people associate. And that is the least of the issues, to be honest. Cardiovascular issue, right? So you have blood pressure, inflammation. Yes, diabetes, fatty liver disease.
Yes. Poor sleep.
Yeah.
Brain fog.
Joint pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it actually ages us.
You. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
We talked about this. So I did a nutrition nugget a million years ago on the air fryer. And how when we cook foods and end up with the like caramelized parts that taste the best.
The best, yeah.
Those are called AGEs, advanced glycation end products that are actually carcinogenic. And sugar creates that, right? Excess sugar attaches to protein in the bloodstream and creates these AGEs inside the body.
Yeah.
And then in the brain, right, we've done a few episodes now talking about how Alzheimer's is referred to as type 3 diabetes.
Diabetes, yeah.
So that got me thinking of like, well, what actually happens in the brain when we eat sugar, right? And it really comes back to dopamine, that feel good reward chemical part of the brain. And what ends up happening is because it's this dopamine and the reward system, it encourages us to eat more sugar for that same feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then more cravings for sugar, a high tolerance for sugar. And yes, like sugar addiction is a real thing. It is physiological. And then while we have this whole dopamine reward thing happening in the brain, the other thing that happens in the brain with excess sugar is disrupted memory, impaired cognitive skills, slower cognitive function, decreased self-control, attention challenges, right? Inflammation in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, it can actually damage the brain. So we end up in this very wild, we want more of it. And at the same time, it's deteriorating everything that's there.
Yeah.
And then that makes us want more of it, right? It's this vicious cycle.
Yep.
How often do people ask you, I'm sort of curious, about the like sugar cocaine thing?
So a lot of times people just deny it because they can't believe that that's real. Most of the time it's more about, is this really true? And then when you tell them it, they tell you that it's not true. But it comes up often, but a lot of times from a very like defensive space because people just don't want to make that association.
Yeah. And it's interesting because years ago, I think basically what we're saying is there's this idea that sugar is as or more addictive than cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
And years ago, it was more based on anecdotal evidence. And now there's actually more and more research showing what happens. And even there were even studies where they were feeding mice either sugar water or cocaine. And so it's true. Like we can basically end up in a place with sugar in a very similar place to where people end up with cocaine.
Yeah, and you can tell, like if you've ever watched anybody do a detox or do a challenge, right? They're literally having the same type of withdrawal symptoms as someone who would be coming off of whatever, alcohol, cocaine. And I'm saying this as a person who has never worked at a detox center, but just from research and knowledge that I have of. But it's literally the exact same effects. And if you don't do it in stages, it can be just as harmful as just like cold turkey taking somebody off of a drug. Yeah.
Yeah. And like there are studies where they even look at, I guess it's neuroimaging, right? Like they're looking at brain scans.
Mm-hmm.
And they see neurological adaptations that mimic what used to only be seen in those who were addicted to cocaine and other drugs.
Mm-hmm. And it has a lot to do, we have so much extra, like we were saying at the top of the show, there's so much extra sugar being pumped into our diets and the body doesn't have any place for it to go. Like, so it's,
right.
Yeah.
And you're like in my brain as usual, because what I want to talk about next is like how many hidden sugars there are and how many words there are for sugar on food labels. Do you have a guess how many we're up to now?
It's a whole lot. For the challenge, I've narrowed it down to like the 70 most common ones. But yeah, it was over, I think, 300 when I did research originally.
Yeah. So the latest I saw was 262 different names for sugar. And I'll give you guys the best resource I found for this list. Part of it's connected to Dr. Robert Lustig, who did a lot of this research. But if you go to hypoglycemia.org, it's the added sugar repository. Or if you just Google added sugar repository, that's the most comprehensive list I've been able to find. Mm-hmm. And to your point, too, not only do we have all these names for it, but it's added to everything. Like this came up recently with Raisin Bran, because I was like, I remember the raisins being covered in sugar.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So we have sugar on sugar on sugar.
On sugar. Yes.
You know, and then there's also, I'm like, energy drinks, flavored drinks, like even flavored milk.
Even things like bread, like whole grain, whole wheat bread, where people think that, that's a healthy, what you do.
Cereal.
Like, it's a healthy option. It's cereal, hands down.
Even the healthier cereals that are supposed to taste like cardboard.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's sugar.
There's so much in there. Protein bars, too.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I feel like you find the worst sugar stats in protein bars and protein powders as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to go through a handful of the names, right? And then also, actually, before I do that, some of the other places where I see this stuff more common, canned goods. So we think we're having canned tomatoes or canned string beans or canned beans, and there will be added sugar in there. Salad dressings are another one, which I do think that's more common. People realize that they're in the salad dressings now. Granola, we talked about cereals, but granolas especially.
So high.
Because how do you think they get the little clumps?
To come together,
Right? Along with the salad dressings, barbecue sauce is a big one, but people are like, but it's barbecue sauce.
It's barbecue sauce.
You know, soups, canned soups, prepared soups, and then yogurt.
Oh yeah.
Yogurt is such, even the Greek yogurt. Like anytime you're getting something that's already flavored in any way, tends to have added sugar.
Yeah. And way too much of it.
Right.
Yes.
So I want to go through some of these names and then remind me to share the caveat on all of these names.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just going to go through a whole long list. Like I said, I highly recommend go to that repository for a full list. But these are just some of the, what we would call aliases of sugar. Agave, barley malt, brown sugar, cane juice and evaporated cane juice, cane sugar, cane syrup, corn sweetener, corn syrup solids, dextrose, fructose, fruit juice concentrate. So maybe it'll say like apple juice concentrate, fruit nectars, glucose, high fructose corn syrup, which most of us know. Now it's just, that corn syrup one.
Right.
Or corn sugar, honey, invert sugar, lactose, malt sugar, malt syrup, maltose, molasses, raw sugar, sucrose, syrup, trehalose. I don't even know if that's really how you say it. TREHALOSE. Turbinado, another one. I mean, we don't have enough time to go through all 262 words. Even that list is far too long for anyone to remember. And then this is the caveat that I didn't want to forget. Adding insult to injury. So we know, right, that we're going to have to read the labels and read the ingredients to see if any of these words are in there.
Correct.
Right? Then, to top it off, if a food manufacturer uses a product that was already made in their food, they don't have to list the added sugar from that food. So essentially, it's like we didn't add the sugar, so we don't have to say it. But we use an ingredient that has added sugar, but that wasn't us. I'm trying to think of I guess I'm making this up. Everybody know that this is not real. I am making this up. But for instance, a protein bar or whatever sort of meal replacement bar has little crispy things in it, but they didn't make the little crispy things. And those crispy things might actually be just a bunch of sugar. They don't have to tell you that there's added sugar because they didn't make the crispy things. So it might say 0 grams of added sugar, and you might not see any in that list of ingredients. But it tastes super sweet.
Yep.
Trust your taste buds.
Yes.
And I say all of this, it's going to be near impossible for anyone to remember all of those words.
Correct. And to eliminate sugar,
entirely.
From your diet.
Yeah.
And honestly, I always tell people, we do need glucose. It's a critical part of, cells being energized. So we need it. We just don't necessarily need as much of it that we get. And we
don't need 100 pounds a year.
We don't need 100 pounds a year. Exactly.
Right. And the thing that I also want to point out, to your point there, is that not every blood sugar challenge or metabolic health challenge is because of sugar.
Correct. That's so
right.
True.
Low vitamin D, gut health, poor sleep, even if we're snacking all the time, sometimes that can tax the pancreas, and then we end up with blood sugar challenges. The thyroid could be involved, magnesium or other nutrient deficiencies like the vitamin D, emotions, your adrenals, right? Our endocrine system. Like, yes, everything is connected. And at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is the be all end all for metabolic health either in terms of removing sugar.
Correct.
And I know the question that's going to come up, so I sort of feel like let's just address it now. But the question is, well, what about sweeteners, right? Sugar versus other sweeteners. And like, I don't know about you, but this is where I say to everybody, like, you got to pick your battles and you have to choose what works for you, with the understanding that even sweeteners, be they natural or artificial, can still disrupt the endocrine system. The body can still read that sweetness and respond to it as sugar, even if it's technically not sugar.
Not. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always say it depends on what you're doing, right? If you're I'm trying to deal with something, I need to get back to homeostasis, then let's be as clean as possible, right? After you've gotten where you need to be, then you can, as you say, pick your battles, right? Decide right. How you want to put together your pie of wellness, because everybody's recipe is unique.
Exactly. And I don't necessarily believe that trying to live 100% sugar-free is even practical.
Agreed.
Or enjoyable.
Agreed. Agreed. And we say sugar-free, and I like, maybe you want to do as much limited added sugar as possible. Maybe you could eliminate that, maybe. But sugar-free 100%, good luck enjoying your life.
Right? What was that? There's like a meme or a GIF or whatever that's like, I feel like it's used about coffee, where it's like you could not have coffee and remove all joy from your life. Like, I do feel that way about sugar. Like, you could go completely sugar-free and remove all joy with it.
Yeah.
Or we can figure out what it looks like for us to have it in balance with other nutrients. And maybe even other nutrients is maybe the wrong word, because I wouldn't call sugar a nutrient.
Yeah, right. Right.
So fair to say, there are incredible health benefits of choosing not to indulge in all of this added sugar and to figure out, as we're saying, how to put it in check. So let's talk about how we do that, right? How do we get off the sweet stuff? So that's what we're going to talk about next after we highlight our partner for this episode. Big thanks to DNA Miracles for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries. Because every child is a miracle, DNA Miracles provides the highest quality body and wellness products designed for babies, children, and expectant mothers. All products are gentle, easy to use, and 100% effective when used as directed. DNA Miracles partner with leading health professionals and scientists who follow the highest standards in ingredient selection to create the most effective skin, hair, and health solutions. As natural as possible, DNA Miracles is the best and safest option on the market for you and your little miracle. From expert pediatricians to real family testimonials, everyone has fallen in love with DNA Miracles. So today we're talking all about added sugar, and often our kids crave sugar for sure, right? So when we support balanced nutrition, it can help with cravings. And this is for everyone, us and our littles. So that's why DNA Miracles created 3 different multivitamins for the littles in your life. One's a chewable, 2 are isotonic capable, which means improved bioavailability. And the DNA Miracles Isotonics Multivitamin Plus was formulated to support the needs of children who need particular nutritional support in the areas of digestive, neurological, and metabolic health. So truly phenomenal formulas to set up your kids for success each day. And you can level up with the DNA Miracles Essential Omega-3. It is absolutely delicious. It tastes like a creamsicle. Your kids are probably going to be asking you for it. You might have to hide it. Here's the deal. I know you'll agree the health of your littles is worth a couple dollars a day. And that is before your discount for being a Salad with a Side of Fries listener. So to get 10% off and free shipping, text the word miracles, MIRACLES, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word miracles, MIRACLES, to 844-947-4846. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Okay, So how do we do this? I think fundamentally we need to just recognize that this is not easy because it's addictive. Like you were even talking about before, the withdrawal symptoms.
Yes. And we have to be honest about the fact that we don't live or exist within environments that support this to be easy, right? Either. So we have to give ourselves a little grace there.
Good point. Some of those withdrawal symptoms, headache, crankiness, depending on how much you're laughing.
Only because I've done this with so many people, and the first couple of weeks is kind of tough. Like I'm getting hit with a lot.
Yeah. What do you feel like? Those are the two big, like the sort of short-tempered or short fuse, the crankiness, the headaches.
Yeah,
tend to be the biggest ones. Yeah.
What do you see? And then also like people just being really tired just from their body. I'm assuming just like getting rid of everything. So just like feeling exhausted. But I also think that's why people are just like cranky because they have to work through that a lot of times. So those are the hands down headaches.
Good point.
Yeah, the headaches, the exhaustion, and the crankiness would be my top 3.
Yeah. And it's also why, by the way, I recommend people not do any sort of a Last Supper of sorts, which can be that can be the tendency or the inclination before you're going to start something like this.
Yep.
This is not for forever. As we said, it's not about living the rest of your life, never eating a granule of sugar. It's about resetting, creating a new baseline so that then when we add it in, we're aware of it. We're intentional about it. We know where it's coming from and how it's fitting in. So resist the urge for a Last Supper. I promise it's only going to make some of those symptoms worse.
Yes, agree. Hands down. You don't need a Last Supper. You don't.
And then some of the things that I find that with all of my clients, whether we're focused on this or not, our cravings for sugar tend to be the highest when we are not eating enough protein or when our blood sugar is low. Our blood sugar could be low because we haven't eaten enough or we've gone too long without fuel. So, top 2 tips when you start, be sure you're eating sufficient protein and regularly enough to keep your blood sugar in sort of this middle range. Like you said, we want fluctuations, just not extremes.
Mm-hmm. And I would also add to that list sleep.
Yes.
I do find that when I know personally, I crave more sugar or just like carbohydrates in particular when I am tired. So if I do not sleep enough, then I wake up and I want to just like eat a whole cake. 100%. I'm not going to, but I totally want to. Yeah.
And that's very physiological, right? Our body doesn't properly respond to leptin when we don't sleep well. So yes, 1,000%. And I also think I was going to talk about sort of swapping, right? And looking for the natural sugars in foods that are still, like you were talking about the tomatoes or even grapes or frozen berries, right? Some of these other foods that can sort of hit that sweet spot because we don't have to flip a switch and go from, eating tons of processed foods and having all this hidden sugar to eating, stalks of celery and leaves of spinach and being like, we're happy.
I'm so excited. Yeah, no. Right. I would say lean into fruit. That's one of the things that I always say, because once you are attempting to swap in sugar, like the natural sources of sugar come from fruit. And there are some fruits that are insanely sweet if you really need a sugar hit. Like your pineapple is going to definitely, a ripe pineapple in season is going to get you, right? You get a crappy one, I can't help you. But a good one is going to be like, cool, that's great. The same thing with like a mango, similar things. And then you can adjust these in ways that make them even more decadent, like freezing your pineapple and then putting it into the blender and making like a sorbet. And yes, you're just literally eating pineapples that are frozen, but it feels like something more. So yes, those swaps make a lot of, like, swapping makes sense.
Absolutely. And then I'm sort of curious because you do this Sweet Escape challenge that's 30 days. Mm-hmm. What's your feeling on cold turkey, like it kind of would be in a challenge like that, versus a gradual removal or trying to resist those foods?
So it's funny you say that because I literally designed this challenge thinking about the people who would be doing it, right? So if you are even interested in doing a sugar-free challenge, you've admitted to yourself that you probably consume way too much sugar, or at least you want to see if you could lower your sugar palate, right? So I said, there's no way that I think it's going to be successful if I do make it a cold turkey approach. So we actually have a slow start that I call the pre-tox. So the first 3 days is about getting rid of overt sugar. Like we all know that candy, cookies, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Get rid of that. Candy, cookies, cakes, all those obvious things, the processed stuff. We get rid of that. And we spend those first 3 days reading labels and getting comfortable with that process of seeing what's in your food, right? So that's something that from the feedback from people and just the thought process of putting it together has been really successful because that first 3 days, people are fascinated by how sugar shows up. They're like, oh my God, it's in my gummy vitamins. Oh my God, it's in my healthy cereal. Oh my God, it's in my bread. So it's that whole process. And then there is a kind of a slow walk down because after we go through that phase, we go into a phase where we eliminate added sugar, right? So you can still have fruit. Of course, there's right. We're not telling you to get rid of fruit, but there's none of the extra stuff. And then in the middle, like there is a bit of a nothing that turns into sugar. Like, so that pre-tox of like 3 days, then we go in the middle, nothing that turns into sugar. So then when they reintroduce it, it's everything tastes so much more amazing after 3 days of just eating like salad and berries, right? It just tastes
Exactly.
great. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I often do a 7-day detox.
Okay.
And it is a little cold turkey, but it's 7 days.
Yeah, for 7 days.
We can do anything for 7 days. Like my friends, you have done much wilder things for way longer than 7 days, right?
Yes.
And part of what I like about it, I find cravings are harder to resist when we have wavy lines. Right? Wavy lines being sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? There is a time and a place for red lines. We talked about this a little bit in our willpower episode, where red lines can help us have more willpower. It cuts the chatter in our minds. So if we can do 7 days with those red lines, what I see, frankly, all of my clients in the last 17 years, 7 days of red lines eliminates a vast majority of those cravings. And then our awareness of when those cravings show up and what we can use instead is infinitely easier than when we tiptoe.
Hands down. I 100% agree. Like for 7 days, I would 100% not give any flexibility. I personally am an all-in person. I feel like when you do those types of, I guess we'll call it habit rescripting, that you go all in because it is very easy to, like you said, justify stepping outside of the lines.
And then that allows us to write some new rules for ourselves and look at what the lines look like after that, right? Like, again, we're not saying you're going to live the rest of your life. I think that's a big piece. When people talk about intuitive eating, I think it's incredibly difficult to go from that one extreme to intuitive eating, which I think is very much in the gray area in the middle. And so a 7-day detox, by the way, I did an episode called Debunking Detox that walks you through what that 7 days looks like. So you can go back and listen to that episode there. But that really, to me, allows us to then shift into, right? Like there's a progression in all of this. And I think it's a piece that I see it for myself and my clients over and over and over. That's a critical step that is often stepped over. And then in part of that, one of the things that we do in those 7 days and in your 30 days is focus on everything we are eating rather than hyper-focusing on everything we're not eating.
Right. Yeah.
Protein, quality fat, fiber,
whole
foods.
Real foods. Like, I think that's a big thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And recognizing too, like you were saying, leaning into the fruit, I think is huge. I encourage everybody to pay special attention to the first fuel of the day, especially when we're looking at eliminating the sugar and the sugar cravings and the added sugar. So in an effort to do that, breakfast within an hour of waking up, high protein, high fiber, quality fat in that first fuel of the day to set our blood sugar up, to set our endocrine system up. Like everything is set up for success, for health, for energy, right? To help with those cravings when we start the day with that kind of nutrition.
Yeah. And it makes
what do you often recommend?
Oh, for breakfast?
Yeah.
I am a really bad breakfast eater. I'll give that what do you call disclaimer? But when I do, I usually eat oatmeal and berries. That's kind of the thing that I kind of kick off the day with. And lately I've been liking breakfast soup, because I don't know why in the summer I want hot food. It's a weird thing.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's very strange, but I've been doing it. And it's just been either lentils or chickpeas and just like a bunch of veggie and a broth.
But that's so nutrient dense. Like, I get that. My thing with breakfast is like, forget what we typically think of as quote unquote breakfast foods. The only thing that makes something breakfast is that it's your first fuel of the day.
Yeah, I agree. I hands down agree. I'm always saying, I tell people all the time, breakfast soup and breakfast salad, they're a thing. So if you don't believe it, like we were not meant to wake up and eat sausage, eggs, pancakes, biscuits. That doesn't even make any, makes no sense at all.
I do like a good omelet.
Yeah.
Right? Poached eggs on a salad. Nothing better.
Agreed.
Tofu veggie scramble.
Yes, I agree.
A chia pudding with berries. For those who really like to start with a sweet breakfast thing in the morning, if you're used to starting with sweet, chia pudding with berries, maybe even adding some high quality protein powder to that. Like, you don't need a highly sweetened protein powder that you're going to add to all that.
No, that's going to be great. I agree. If you want something sweet. Yeah.
So just consider how you're thinking about things throughout the day. And then we talked about a lot of times when we're craving sugar, what we actually need is protein. So notice where you're getting all of your protein each time you eat something. And then think about nutrients. I'm not going to lie, vitamins and minerals. Then I'm going to say minerals and minerals and minerals, right? Electrolytes, minerals are really important when it comes to the tiredness, the headaches, the crankiness, and insulin. So throwing that out there for everybody. One of the other things that is inherent in what you and I are talking about that I want to say explicitly is community and accountability. This is infinitely harder doing it alone.
Yes. It is.
What are some of the things that you encourage people to do to stay connected to others during your 30-day challenge, or even, the accountability piece of it?
Yeah, so we have a group that we all come together in, and it's every day an email goes out, every day a text message goes out that literally encourages people to communicate in a group, engage in the group, use the group for your support. And it's fun to even see people, by about week a day, 7 or 8, right? People are like, they're in the world, they're doing things. And so you see people like out at a meeting at work and it's just like, oh, they just brought donuts, they take a picture of it. Everybody's like, no, don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like it becomes this whole thing. And it's nice that because they know that people that get them, so to say, they could do it. And then there's even chatter within the chat where it becomes, like, you get to the point where you become like holier than thou, right? Where everybody's like, I can't believe anybody's eating sugar. And I have to be like, don't be those people. Like,
right.
You guys just
got your nose back down. Right.
Right. 10 days ago, you were those people. So we're not going to do that. But it's fun because they know they have this safe space that they can go to when they're in environments that are doing, when people having behaviors different than what they're doing. So that it's so helpful, I'll tell you.
Exactly. It might be someone like Brandy or myself where there's a structured plan, right? And some guidance. It also could be just grab a buddy.
Literally.
Grab a buddy, find someone or a couple people to do this with.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, years ago before all this stuff, when I, was living on that roller coaster of diet after diet and up and down, I always say it felt like I was climbing Mount Everest naked and barefoot. And everybody around me is like, climb. What's wrong with you? Climb.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like looking around for the person who gets where you are. That's what this is, right? We need someone in it with us.
Yeah.
So find a buddy, find a system and a plan, because we need some structure, not just around the challenge piece of it, of removing all the things, but also around adding them back in. Because, like we said, we're not going to live the rest of our lives never eating a granule of sugar, never having a granule of joy, right? So how do we do that with intention? What does it look like? Where is it that we want to prioritize adding them back in? And again, accountability to recognize when we feel our best and help us connect those dots to figure out what that looks like. Because as you said, Brandy, in the beginning, that's what's going to look different for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's like, because sugar becomes, and this is just getting feedback from people, like your quality of sugar, the requirements go a little higher once you know, right. Like once you're aware, it's like you're not necessarily going to eat the Hershey Kisses that you found in the bottom of your bag from like 3 summers ago, right? You might instead invest in something that is worth that cost that you're going to have to pay for having sugar, right? So, yeah.
Exactly. And so, frankly, when we can get to that place, right, when we have all of these nutrients in our nutrition and then some of the sugar in its place, right, also, our benefits, we experience like improved metabolic health, less insulin resistance, less chronic disease, improved fertility, easier weight management, better hormone balance, right? Reduced joint discomfort, improved sleep, better mood, focus, healthier skin, literally head to toe.
Yeah.
And every cell improves.
Yeah. And the brain, I think I really want to go back to that. I know the brain is like, it just fires off so much more effectively, which of course, like you say, affects the whole, the whole body, right? So, yeah.
I know. It's every cell, every system, every organ improves when we eliminate or minimize this toxin. All right. I think we did a thing here.
Yeah, right? This seems like a reasonable thing that we've done here for sure.
Yeah. Final thought, wrap up comment.
Yeah, I always like to frame just like the whole idea of shifts and detoxes and doing things that may be different from what you're used to, as to approach it with curiosity and wonderment and discovery, and gamify the process so that you don't feel like it's like you're losing something, but you're exploring in a way that makes you see that, wow, I've just opened up so many more possibilities from this process. And so that's what I want to say. Anybody who's considering doing a detox or trying to, especially we talk about sugar in particular, think about all of the new things that you're going to discover through this process versus all stuff you have to give up.
Yes. And I think I'll add to that. I want to reiterate, no one needs to be 100% sugar-free. Right? I don't think that's required at all. I do think there's tremendous value in realizing where sugar hides, where you personally are getting sugar that you didn't realize, so that you can then make informed choices.
And I also want to add, and why you're going for the sugar when you're going for the sugar. I think that's an important thing to note as well through the process.
Exactly. And to your point of the curiosity, it then allows us to reset and explore what's happening. Where do we want these things to fit in? What do we want our, full pie of food to look like. All right, let's preview our nutrition nugget for everybody. So on Friday, friends, we're talking about mindset as a muscle. So even just the title probably has you thinking, maybe even thinking a little differently, right? So on Friday, in this week's Nutrition Nugget bonus episode, I'm going to tell you more about what this means, mindset as a muscle, and why it's important, what you can do. So be sure, click follow or the plus sign in the app where you're listening, and then your app will remind you when the Nutrition Nugget bonus episode is live on Friday morning. Well, as always, friends, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I am at Jenn Trepeck, JennTrepeck. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Pick your platform, send a message. I love hearing from you. So send your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Brandy, thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yes, I love chatting with you. And of course, if you are not already, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/saladwithasideofries. This shows your support for this podcast, this community, and most importantly, it supports your health. You'll get this week's recipes for the 3-ingredient brownies and healthier chocolate mousse, both with no added sugar, and access to 2 live Q&A sessions this month exclusively for our member community. So until next week, remember, sugar is hiding all over. And while we don't have to be 100% sugar-free, your awareness is critical for your health. So you can pull back the curtain and sugar will no longer be hiding from you. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.